So what is canon? If you read up on lore or have been listening to us recently, there has been much discussion of what is canon, particularly on our recent Empire Will Fail video, which you should go check out, link is in the description. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and today I want to talk about canon in the Elder Scrolls lore, what constitutes canon, what is considered canon, etc., and the likely canon events of the future games. I will also clear up why I asserted in the Empire video that the assassination of Titus Mede, the Emperor, will be canon, but that will come later. The video as a whole is supposed to act as a primer for people who are getting into Elder Scrolls lore or people who want to know what to believe. Also, disclaimer, there will be spoilers in this video, and also, even though I'd like to be, as would many people, I am not the arbiter and canon authority on Elder Scrolls lore. Everything is up for debate, which you guys can get up to in the comments, but obviously the best and most convincing arguments are the ones backed up by evidence. Anyways, before we get into anything relating to the canon of the future games, let's establish what canon is. So in terms of definition, it is essentially history, facts, and lore that is considered to be 100% true. Now, Bethesda doesn't come out and say, this is canon and this isn't canon, so this is often why people debate over what is what so often. Now, Elder Scrolls canon is also particularly hard to pin down because they use a storytelling device called the Unreliable Narrator very often. An unreliable narrator is where sources of information from books or people, like different perspectives, are considered unreliable, which in many ways helps the story and world as it makes it more believable, more real. If you look at real life, much of history we know is only as certain as the records or the most recent archaeological discoveries that are found. We never have and likely never will have the full picture, only fragments of history on which we can build upon. There are always things to consider, like history is written by the victor, and embellishment or exaggeration. Anyways, all this stuff happens in real life, so when it happens in fantasy worlds like Elder Scrolls, it makes it more believable, which I think is really, really cool, and is one of the reasons Elder Scrolls is so successful, its vast and deep lore. However, this does give us the most annoying problem of determining what is canon. The safest bet that we can all agree on is what happens in the Elder Scrolls games made by Bethesda Game Studios is most definitely canon. That also includes DLCs like the Shivering Isles or Tribunal. So then comes to the question of what else is canon. I would also believe that media, games, or works published by Bethesda Softworks, the owner of the Elder Scrolls license and copyright, are also considered canon. However unfortunate that may be, because sometimes they ruin bits and pieces. I'm looking at you, ESO. I would and think it is fair to regard games such as ESO and Elder Scrolls Legends as canon, as they are both published by Bethesda Softworks, who once again owns Elder Scrolls. Now, remember to be fair and critical about this, because we are trying to discern the truth, not what particular people want. For example, when the Star Wars The Phantom Menace came along and explained the Force with midichlorians, many people didn't like it, but it is an official Star Wars movie, and therefore a legitimate source, and therefore a part of the official lore. You can dislike that part of the lore, but that doesn't make it untrue. I'd also point out that Elder Scrolls novels by Greg Keyes would also be considered canon, as the rights were given to him for the creation of those books. Also, much of the information from those books is referenced in Skyrim, such as the tree in the Sleeping Tree Camp, which is a piece of tree fallen from the floating city of Umbriel. So now we're all on the same page about what canon is and what materials are considered canon. It would seem that Arena, Daggerfall, Redguard, Battlespire, Morrowind, Oblivion, Shadowkey, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, and Elder Scrolls Legends are all canon, including the events within them that make up the history of future games. Let's now get inside the games themselves and try to determine canon events, because remember, we have this whole unreliable narrator situation going on. The biggest problem with this is the fact that there are so many choices and optional storylines to pursue, but the key word is optional. For example, your character in Oblivion may have only done the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild, but never touched the Mages Guild. So how does Bethesda account for these possibilities in the lore? Well, what it seems they do is try to minimize the amount of canon choices that the protagonist of the games definitely make, as to not enforce decisions on your characters. If we were to go off what they have done previously, then it seems that the only 100% certain events that the protagonists do are the main storylines, and it also seems the DLCs. Let me explain. So first, let's look at Morrowind. You are the Nerevarine, and from history that is spoken about in Oblivion and Skyrim, it would seem that it is canon that the Nerevarine defeats Dagoth and fulfills the prophecy. It is also canon that the events of the Tribunal DLC occur. Almalexia goes insane, kills Sotha Sil, and then the Nerevarine kills her. If these events didn't happen, by the time of Oblivion, Dagoth Ur would be running all over Morrowind with his ash abominations, which obviously was not the case. In regards to Oblivion, the hero of Kvatch definitely saved Kvatch and helped Martin Septim defeat Mehrunes Dagon. If this was not canon, then the events of Skyrim would not be possible, as so much of Skyrim's lore hinges off the failed Mehrunes Dagon invasion. It also seems to be canon that the hero of Kvatch goes to the Shivering Isles, ends the Grey March, and mantles Sheogorath, becoming Sheogorath the Daedric Prince. Now from this, you can pretty much guarantee that in the eventual Elder Scrolls 6 it will be canon that the Dragonborn defeated Alduin and killed Miraak. I'm sure everyone agrees on this, but what about the other storylines, the guild storylines? Well, here is how I look at it, as well as many other people, and it also seems that Bethesda treats it this way as well. It seems like the events of guild storylines are considered canon. Whether or not they are completed by the protagonist or not is a different story. So for example, say you're playing Oblivion, but you would never ever do the Mages Guild. By the time of Skyrim, however, it would be considered canon that Mannimarco never succeeded in his plan to destroy the Mages Guild, as well as wreak havoc on Tamriel, because the Mages Guild survived to later be split into two other factions, the College of Whispers and the Synod Mages. If Mannimarco succeeded, then this would never have been a possibility. So whether or not it was the hero of Kvatch who became the new Archmage and defeated Mannimarco, or not, someone did, and the events of this are canon. So it is instances like this that give me reason to believe that Elder Scrolls Guild storylines are canon, at least the events within them, because history of the future games often hinges on these previous guild events to be completed. But Bethesda can still remain vague about who specifically completed them. For example, I'd be inclined to believe that the College of Winterhold questline would be considered canon and the Psijic Order take the Eye of Magnus to a safe place. Whether this was the Dragonborn or some random who became the Archmage, it does not matter as long as the events were completed. Whereas the main storyline must be completed by the Dragonborn because no other could do it. You get where I'm coming from, so this is why I asserted in the Empire Will Fail video that the Emperor will be assassinated by the Dark Brotherhood. Now, a few people in the comments brought up a relatively valid point about this, saying that there is also a quest to destroy the Dark Brotherhood, which, to be honest, could turn out to be the case, but I find it unlikely. Ultimately, Bethesda could do whatever they want by the time of Elder Scrolls 6, and I may be proven wrong in a long time from now when Elder Scrolls 6 finally comes out. However, I will explain my reasons for its unlikelihood. Firstly, I believe the ability to destroy the Dark Brotherhood will not be canon from a logistical perspective. The Dark Brotherhood storyline involves many events that simply would not happen if they are destroyed. Important figures are assassinated, which could change the way the world is. It can only go down in one of two ways. First canon option is the Dark Brotherhood is destroyed, which means by Elder Scrolls 6 there is no Dark Brotherhood, and the entire questline of events that Bethesda spent time crafting and implementing into the game is null and void. Or the Dark Brotherhood is not destroyed and the questline is fulfilled, resulting in the Emperor's death. I mean, the Emperor's death is an incredibly significant event and hasn't been done since Uriel Septim 200 years ago. To be honest, it seems so unlikely that they would rip this from the history books and instead destroy the Dark Brotherhood, which, mind you, is a fan favorite faction. The destroy option, I believe, is simply an appeal to role-playing, which is a fantastic thing, but it doesn't necessarily validate it as canon. I mean, I could roleplay a guy who could never be fucked doing any of the guild storylines or the main quest, but by Elder Scrolls 6 it will be canon that Alduin was defeated, because if he isn't, then he would have consumed the world, aka no future for the world. Just because you could do something in the games does not cement it as canon. For example, in Morrowind, I could kill every single character that existed in the game and do nothing but collect skooma. However, that is not canon. In Morrowind, you could kill Neloth as a sworn enemy of the Telvanni, but he is alive in the Dragonborn DLC, so the choice to kill him would be invalid as canon. I mean, if you just killed Lucien Lachance in Oblivion and never joined the Dark Brotherhood, it is likely that the traitor would have been able to exact his revenge uninterrupted, leading to their possible destruction. You see where I'm getting at? You can debate this if you like, and like I said at the start of the video, I can't see the future and don't know what they will do with future lore. However, I would bet that it is more likely that the events of the guild storylines will be fulfilled, resulting in the Dark Brotherhood assassinating the Emperor. I hope that has cleared up my take on the matter and given you something to think about. But before before I go, I want to approach one other topic of discussion for Elder Scrolls lore. If you have ever been into Elder Scrolls lore, then you may have heard about Michael Kirkbride. So, who is the elusive Michael Kirkbride? Michael Kirkbride is a former writer and designer at Bethesda. He has worked on Elder Scrolls Redguard, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and the Knights of the Nine DLC for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. He is responsible for much of the Elder Scrolls lore that you know and love today. He wrote some of the best books in the Elder Scrolls, books that have been used as evidence for some of the coolest theories in the Elder Scrolls universe. In-game books such as the Arcturian Heresy, Mysterious Akavir, The True Nature of Orcs, Shazar and the Divines, The Song of Pelennor, 5 Songs of King Wulfarth, and the list goes on and on. Now, these are all in the games and therefore 100% canon. However, Michael Kirkbride continued writing lore for the Elder Scrolls after he left Bethesda, a lot of which builds upon the lore he already wrote for the games and has been canonized because they are in those games. But this becomes a point of contention for a lot of Elder Scrolls lore nerds because quite simply, it is not in the games and it is not canon. However, a lot of the time, it is so good, people wish it was. And further than that, it is also an expansion on concepts and lore that he himself created, but does not necessarily own because it's Bethesda's, if that all makes sense. Anyways, Michael Kirkbride did introduce the concept of open source lore, where basically it's a system where the games are canon of course, but lore can be created by the fan base, if it fits in with the canon lore and is convincing by the way of evidence. This is how theories like the Thalmor wanting to undo creation are made. They are so convincing that they may as well be canon, but then again, it technically isn't. An open source lore isn't going around saying, make shit up, make Argonians actually super strong and have 15 lives. It's only stuff that makes sense within the context of the lore. It's backed by evidence from in the games. Then there is his works on Coda and other metaphysical hyper crazy shit, but let's leave that for another time. Anyways, open source is a cool idea, but it is still not canon. The biggest takeaway from this whole video is that games, media, and material about Elder Scrolls published by Bethesda are in fact canon, and in regards to the events of those games, I believe the main story and guild storylines are canon, as they have been in the past. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and had a good think about the implications of canon or non-canon events. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Links to our Twitter can be found in the description below, as well as our brand new Twitch channel. Thanks for watching, and I will be back to nerd out with you again next time.